Hi everyone, and welcome back to another TAINA Tips. I'm Keir, and I'm joined today by Sean.
Hi, everyone.
Today we're talking about something we hear all the time from tax and onboarding teams. The tax form is valid, so we're fine. But in practice, that assumption often doesn't hold up in an audit.
That's right. And the key issue is that validity is actually a pretty narrow concept. It tells you that the form is complete, signed, dated, and filled incorrectly, but that's not the same as being able to rely on it.
Exactly. A valid form answers the question, is the paperwork technically correct? Audit is asking something different. Was it reasonable for the firm to rely on this form?
And that's where auditors start digging into the process behind the form. They want to know what checks are actually occurring, things like TIN validation, US indicia reviews, consistency checks, reason to know, and how exceptions were handled.
Right. A PDF sitting in a repository doesn't show any of that. It doesn't show who reviewed it, what validations ran, or why the firm concluded it could rely on the information provided.
And you and I are still seeing a lot of firms relying on manual evidence to bridge that gap with screenshots, emails, just notes stored in the shared drives.
And the problem is those artifacts usually aren't systematic or consistent. From an audit perspective, that makes them very hard to rely on, especially when controls are applied differently across accounts.
Yeah, and another big audit issue is timing. The tax form might have been perfectly valid when it was collected, but if there's no way to detect a change in circumstance, reliance on that form can quietly expire.
And the auditors focus heavily on that. Not just did you have a form, but did you know when you needed a new one or additional documentation to support the one you have?
Yeah, and this is why auditors tend to care more about the process around the form rather than the form itself.
How it was collected, what checks were applied, which exceptions were raised or overridden, and whether there's a clear justification and audit trail.
When those steps are automated and consistently applied, they create something much stronger than a valid document. They create defensible evidence.
And that's really where this all comes together. At TAINA, automation isn't just about speed and efficiency, it's about building a secure, auditable process around tax onboarding.
And because in an audit, it's not enough to say the form was valid. You need to be able to show why it was reasonable for the firm to rely upon it.
Thanks for joining us for this TAINA Tips, and we'll see you next time.